You are listening to KC Sports Network, the #1 podcast network for today's Kansas City sports fans. With former players from your favorite teams, informed perspectives, and former insiders, this is the place for you. KC Sports Network is proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
Welcome into 21 Questions. This is the subscriber only question asking opportunity for KCSN subscribers. What's up, everybody? I'm Kent Swanson. This is my dear pal, Craig Stout. Craig, why don't you tell us who this wonderful show is sponsored by?
This wonderful show is sponsored by my very favorite liquor store in the world, Macadoodles, coming to Lee's Summit, Missouri. I know we got a lot of people in Kansas City. You have to be excited about them coming. They are coming in early October. As soon as we know the actual date, we are going to pass that along to you. But if you are waiting, they are opening at the end of September in Jefferson City. If you are a little further east out there into Missouri, get out to the Jefferson City store and do that. But if you are in Kansas City, I can't wait. I so hope, Kent, that they are open before the golf tournament when we're up there, because, buddy, I'm gonna have to take out a second mortgage on my house. Don't wait, I'm not, because Macadoodles isn't that expensive. So yeah, no, it's gonna be great. We're excited to have Macadoodles here. I'm excited to be doing this with you, buddy.
I am too. I don't know the last time we did 21 questions together. I kind of had I had a stretch this summer where I wasn't even on the show for like 5 weeks straight. It's been a busy year. It's been a busy year for all of us. But I am excited to answer some questions here. Captain Mike Denny asks, how would a Super Bowl matchup of Chiefs Packers affect the way top 5 wide receivers get paid in the NFL?
Ooh, that's a hell of a question, because those are the two teams that are kind of doing it that way. You know, they've gone all in on their quarterback. They've spent so much money on Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers here that would kind of hit the reset button. The teams that are going, listen, we're not going to do the top of the market thing. We're getting out from under it. We traded Devontae Adams. We traded Tyreek Hill, got out from under it. We're doing it by committee. You know, we've seen shifts in other positions where teams have recognized the top of the market is insane. We're not doing that. We're just going to stock it full of mid-range talent, for lack of a better term there, drafting and guys that aren't commanding top of the market value. If those two teams make the playoffs, I mean, like, I feel like that's what we're going to hear about for 2 straight weeks. Like, that's going to be the #1 thing, as well as the fact that I believe the Cardinals Stadium is called the State Farm Stadium. I think that's right. And so we'll finally get the State Farm Bowl and all. Yeah, there'll be all sorts of stuff like that.
Don't worry. Aaron Rodgers will find a way to miss it. Yeah, I think it could affect the receiver market, but maybe just for teams with like elite tier quarterbacks. So, you know, maybe it's the elite tier teams start saying, okay, we're not going to pay some of these guys, but I don't know if it completely changes the entirety of the market. I still think there's teams willing to pay for these guys because they don't have that elite tier guy. Like, I mean, I feel like the Vikings are going to pay Justin Jefferson, and they should. And he's going to make a lot of money. If you don't have an elite tier quarterback, you probably still have to consider making those kind of decisions. But I think it could make some of these teams with elite quarterbacks kind of think twice. Because think about it. The teams that did do that, they had the MVP from last year and the best player in the world, Patrick Mahomes. B Higgs 55. What is the one thing you could see in this Cardinals game that would make you bet the house on DraftKings, of course, on the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl?
Ooh, a shutout by the defense, maybe. I think that would make me feel a little more confident. I wrote a little earlier this week on KCSN Daily. That's our Substack, kcsn.substack.com. You can subscribe to that. $30 a year, $5 a month. That's how you get into the Discord. That's how you get to ask us questions for the show. But I wrote a little earlier this week about Steve Spagnuolo's trends and how his defense has played and kind of when things turned around. And I think we all think about how, it's about middle of the year that Spagnuolo's defenses really start to come together. Some of these are extremely late in the year. The 2019 squad had a very embarrassing loss for the Titans very late in the year. There wasn't very much time left for them to kind of get stuff back together, right the ship, go forward from there. So if they are able to start with a higher floor, because these guys are going to play hard, they're better tacklers than what we've seen recently. If they're going to be able to start with a higher floor and perform exceptionally well in week 1 against an offense that frankly should score points, maybe not a ton, but should score points. If they shut them out, I'm taking a whole bunch of money to DraftKings for that one, because like that's the thing that could hold back this team is an underperforming defense. If they look good, whew, look out.
Yeah, it'd be terrifying. George Karlaftis going off, stuff like that. That just adds to it all. Azuri Gunner asks, KCSN FC, when?
I don't know. We'll just have to see. Might be coming. Might not be coming. We'll see.
Side note, have you watched Welcome to Wrexham yet?
I have not had time to do any of that yet. I've heard good things about it. Yes.
I love it so much. And if you don't know what that is, it's Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds bought a soccer team, and they have a documentary about it, and it's incredible. I've very, very much enjoyed it so far. So yeah, it's on FX, you should give it a shot. We aren't financially obligated to mention that. It's just a really good show. Yeah. Brandon W asks, how much research has the KC Laboratory already done on the 2023 KCSN draft guide? Yeah, we've actually started some work already. We definitely have. There's conversations happening, and we're kind of getting our preliminary work done. We don't start putting grades on paper for another month or so. We won't start that process for about another month, but we've definitely already started kind of getting some initial lists, some initial ideas of who we want to watch, and started really paying attention to the players that we know we need to start kind of paying attention to, but not necessarily anything like firm. But we're already looking for sure. We're already watching.
Except Maddie. Maddie's already graded everybody from week 1 already.
Maddie comes in incredibly prepared for draft weekend. Like some split positions, there'll be like split positions that we'll have, for like we'll kind of divvy up like the defensive ends or something like that. And then what winds up happening is Maddie does a great job drafting those. Then we look at the end, and like Maddie's got most of the top edge rushers, even the like some of the underrated guys. He comes in, and he's already got a plan. Even when
why
we're
did
just
he
like
pick this D3 rusher out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden he's like on like going to the shrine and all that? It's like
third round pick. Yeah, okay,
yeah.
good on you, buddy. Fish asks, is Brett Veach adopting the Patriots mentality of moving on from a player a year early rather than a year late? I'm mostly referring to trading Tyreek Hill and letting Tyron walk. Yeah, I think they're kind of starting to get towards that a little bit. I think that's the shift, and that's the next kind of wave. Like when you talk about Patrick Mahomes' second act, we've kind of talked about it's I think it's philosophically changing a little bit more too. More emphasis on draft picks, moving on from bigger contracts, trying not to be loaded up too much with big contracts at this point. That's kind of what I think you're seeing. I think you're seeing some adjustments to not just, hey, we're going to move on from Tyreek, but like I think they're going to move on from other guys. They're going to try to, keep this core young and cheap. And, if they can do that over the next, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years, like good things are going to happen. And they're well on their way to building a stable, consistent core for sure. Like I really like what they've done the last couple of drafts. And if you keep hitting the way you appear to be in the drafts, like this is a very strong, stable approach to be taking.
It is. And I think, we refer to it as the Patriot way because I think that's the first time that we've seen a team have as much continued success revolving around a quarterback in the way that it is. Now, that's not to say like there have been other quarterbacks that have certainly had success and stayed in a place for a long time. But in the modern era, having that level of success is very difficult to do. I mean, like hosting 4 AFC championship games is insanely difficult to do. So, I mean, I naturally, we just gravitate towards that Patriot way, but it is always about building around the quarterback. We spent years talking about how Tom Brady took a team discount, did all this stuff, took a team discount. We are a couple of years away from talking about Patrick Mahomes and his $500 million contract that he signed as a team discount because of the way that the cap is rising and because of the way that it's going. We'll see. He seems very content with all of his endorsements. He seems very well taken care of. He has utilized his money smartly. He has done things very wisely. But I think that you are going to continue to see Brett Veach take some more opportunities, knowing that the floor is so insanely high with a franchise quarterback that is that level of good, a la the Patriots, under Tom Brady. You are going to take more chances on moving on from guys a little bit early, or trading guys, collecting assets and turning around, using those for cheaper players, knowing and trusting your staff to do things right, also knowing that you're not going to be, a 7-9 team at any point.
Speaking of hitting on draft picks, Dylan26 asks, how long does it take until George Karlaftis snags the starting role from Mike Dana?
I mean,
go.
Yeah, it's going to happen quickly. I mean, I think we're going to see Mike Dana and George Karlaftis. I think the split's going to be pretty even, for the first part of the year here, especially if we'll see how they're going to use Turk Wharton in the dime. If they're continuing to use a George Karlaftis and a Mike Dana in the dime with Frank Clark and Chris Jones, I think those snap counts will be fairly level, maybe even trending just a smidge towards Dana there. But give us week 6, week 7. I think that George Karlaftis will have responded enough to what's going on with everything else that I think he will be getting the quote unquote starter snaps and starting to get that lion's share of it. Mike Dana is still going to be a heavy rotated guy because Spagnuolo rotates his defensive line a lot. But that being said, I think George Karlaftis will be the primary guy by about week 6 or 7, I would guess.
And I think snap counts what you pay attention to necessarily over like quote unquote starting. Like I think snap counts what you need to kind of pay attention to. Steve Gray, what is one thing you most want to see from this young defense in Arizona? I want to see them play, like the youth play. Like that's really like, I know that sounds crazy, but I know like we talked about the entirety of the defense on the KC Laboratory preview show you can watch, you can listen to before the game starts as well. I just want to see young guys get out there. And like we talked a little bit about this, it's like I want to see, which young guys earn the trust quick. The Leo Chenal, like Leo Chenal and Jalen Watson and Joshua Williams. These are the guys I want to see if they actually wind up making it onto the field at any point, and how early, when is it tangible? Is it real snaps? Is it garbage time? I'm curious to see what young guys have earned the trust so quickly and how those guys wind up performing. That's really what I'm kind of most curious about.
Yeah, I think mine is definitely that. And again, as we talked a little bit about this, so I won't go into some of that. So I'll go with kind of an alternate one. I want to see how Justin Reed communicates on the back end. It's not necessarily the results, because that's going to be a team effort sort of thing. We're going to see a lot of variance with some of these guys. I want to see the interaction that he's having with these guys. I want to see how he helps pick them up. If they allow a big completion, I want to see how he helps pick them up. I want to see the ways that he involves himself in the game. We just got off of 3 years of Tyrann Mathieu. I know everybody remembers him, throwing his hands up at times with some of the, things that he didn't like, but those guys loved him. And the way that he helped pick up his teammates on the field was immense. And that was a very integral part of what that room was, and the cohesiveness of that room, and the way that they were able to play together during some of their best years and during some of their best games. I want to see if Justin Reed is able to kind of bring some of that same cohesiveness. You can see some of that on the field. You can see the way that guys react to each other. You can see the way that guys help pick each other up and things like that. So I want to see how he is going to bring to the table. I'm not expecting him to do it exactly like Tyrann. No, I'm not expecting him to do anything exactly like Tyrann. I just want to see what his particular brand of leadership is going to bring to the defense, because I think that's so important to what they tried to bring him in for the culture.
This is a little bit of a Discord inside joke. Drew Clark asks, if Kent is Goofy, who from the KC Laboratory are Mickey and Donald? I'm going to answer this. Craig is the best of us, so he's Mickey, and no. Maddie is very clearly Donald because he's got the biggest like temper or like a willingness to go there, I think, of all of us. So like I think we all fit in, perfectly. Yeah,
Craig is Mickey because he has the biggest ears, and Matt is Donald because he never wears pants.
There's that too. There There is that too. Okay, drum deck Mike. If the Chiefs get up by 2 scores in the second half, will they run the ball and be effective? And number 2, will they be able to continue to run successfully even when everyone knows they are running? I think they'll be able to run the ball effectively. I do. Because I do think teams are still going to invite the run. I still think teams want to try to keep a lid on this offense. They want to invite the run game a little bit. They want to keep a lid and limit the explosive plays and kind of sell out to eliminate explosive plays and force this team to drive down the field and force them to be effective play over play over play. So I think there will be favorable boxes that this defense will, or this offense will be running into, and that will lead to some productivity. So I think this team knows that they've got to run the ball a little bit better than they did last year, and I think they will. I really think they will. Zach Faux McGorkin. What is the expected trade haul for Chris Jones if he tallies 13 plus sacks this year?
Whew, 13 sacks is a lot. And you can turn around and look back at his previous best year as being kind of a contract year, again, as, a monster year. Then he turns around, he has a bunch of years with 9 sacks. And I know that we look at Chris Jones in the light of, he's not getting double-digit sacks. So maybe he's a little bit inconsistent. Maybe he's doing some of this. That still pretty much makes him the second best interior defensive lineman in the league. It just does. I mean, behind Aaron Donald, he gets to the quarterback just as much or more than anybody else in the league at that position. And that is a premium. It does not matter. If he turns around and puts up a 13 sack season, it shows, hey, he's going to continue to do this. These 9 sack seasons are just him being a hair's width apart from that. And you can even point to the Chiefs revamped their secondary, and now all of a sudden, Chris Jones has more time to rush the passer. So if we've got a little bit of help on the back end, we're a team that maybe wants to trade for a guy like that. But that being said, Chris Jones gets 13 sacks, and this defense plays well enough on the back end. If that secondary is good enough, some of those are coverage sacks. I think you keep Chris Jones at that point because he's a guy, he's a guy that's going to get there in 2.6, 2.7 seconds on most passing downs. And if you've got a good enough secondary to do that, you don't let guys like that walk. I think that he's more of a lock for the roster at that point than some of the other guys on the roster. So if that's the case, I think you keep him at a 13 sack season for another year. You've still got him under contract, so you don't have to do anything with him. That being said, if some team wants to come along and pay a first plus, absolutely you listen. But I think you're in a win-win situation at that point where you're just more than happy to keep the dude, and it's going to take a king's ransom to get him out.
A 13 sack season might be a Super Bowl for the Chiefs.
I mean, oh man, Chris Jones gets 13 sacks. Like this team might be top 5, 6 in sacks.
They're the 1 seed
with him at 13.
They're the 1 seed if he's doing that. Zach Eisen, call your shot. Deadline acquisition. I don't have a player. I mean, it's just way too early to know who's going to be available, who's not. But I do think it's going to be pass rush. I think it'll be defensive end because there's just if you're looking at the defensive end position right now, I just don't know if Carlos Dunlap, rookie George Karlaftis, and Frank, whatever's going on with Frank. A lot of questions there. I think you've got to continue to bolster that pass rush in a big way if you're going to try to make a big, push at the end.
Bob Quinn. I mean, listen, there was just too much smoke around it this year. If the Bears aren't good, like mid-season, he's just going to be like, all right, man, I barely wanted to be on this team anyway. Get me to a contender. I don't need to stick around for this. And if the Chiefs, if there are any issues with Frank, being available on the field, if Carlos Dunlap isn't contributing in the way that they want, whatever the case may be, if they're just not able to get home as much, adding Robert Quinn, even in a role to just be like, hey, line up and get after the passer, that's a guy that you sign. That's a Terrell Suggs signing right there. You just keep him for a year, win the Super Bowl, get him a ring.
Yeah. Hey, I'm fine with that last little part. Jay the Fan, have you guys brought up the Mahomes apology video with Brett Coleman yet? He says that video led him to becoming a fan of himself. Nah, I haven't. I don't know if you've told him about that at all. Have you?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
If you guys didn't know, Brett Coleman is on with KCSN every single week on KCSN Daily. So make sure you are checking that out. It's going to, what is it, Wednesdays?
I believe Brett is on Wednesdays. I'm not sure.
Brett Coleman
There's
every
so many
Wednesday.
people that are on there that are so good.
The lineup's sick.
Yeah, it is.
It's
And
like
then it's led by Tucker on Thursdays. Great.
exactly. The Thursdays are the day I'm always looking most forward to. KC from KC, isn't the Raiders' new offense the old Patriots offense, only with better skill players in aggregate? Yeah, I mean, I think there's some similarities there, and there's going to be some similarities for sure, just because of Josh McDaniels bringing in his play calling style. But I mean, I don't know if quote unquote old's the right context either, because I think Josh McDaniels has evolved a little bit here too, and I think he's a really good play caller. You're going to find that out when the Raiders start playing. Even with a suspect offensive line, there's enough weapons there. There's enough creativity. I hate to say it. I think the Raiders are going to surprise some people this year. Year one with Josh McDaniels, even with some questions along the offensive line. That Devontae Adams guy seems to be decent. I think there will be more emphasis on getting a guy like Devontae Adams the ball than maybe there would have been necessarily in like New England. I mean, I know that sounds crazy. Like they would have gotten the ball. Don't get me wrong, but I just think there will be more intentionality with getting a guy like Devontae Adams the ball. Corey Peter asks, favorite Star Wars movie.
Favorite Star Wars movie. This is tough. I think it's Rogue One.
I was gonna say, are you gonna go off the beaten path and go like?
Of course I am. I loved Rogue One. I mean, you walked in, you knew the way it was going to end. Like you knew the general. This is how it's going to start. This is what the goal of it is. This is how it's going to end. And they did such a good job of storytelling all of that. I mean, when you know the start and the finish of everything, and you can still be glued and be that compelled to a story for the entire time, you did something right. So yeah, I think Rogue One for me.
I'll tell you mine in a minute, but you're gonna have to wait. But the wait is over because DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is officially live in Kansas just in time for football season. That means betting legally on same-game parlays, spreads, money lines, and more anytime and anywhere across the Sunflower State. To celebrate, DraftKings is giving new Kansas customers a can't-miss offer. Bet just $5 on anything and get $200 in free bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code KCSN to get $200 in free bets instantly when you place a $5 bet on anything. That's code KCSN only at DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook. Gambling problem? Getting help is your best bet. Call 800-522-4700. 21 and older, physically present in Kansas. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus issued as free bets. One early win token issued at opt-in. Moneyline bets only. Deposit and wagering restrictions apply. Eligibility and terms at DraftKings.com/Kansas. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. All right, my favorite Star Wars movie is New Hope, and that's pretty lame. So I know
pretty lame.
I know. So this is what I'm gonna say.
Okay.
This is what I'm going to say. The Force Awakens is better than people say it is, and I don't appreciate the disrespect towards The Force Awakens. I think it was a good movie. I think it paid off a lot of fans of Star Wars from multiple generations. It hit me in the feels in a very, very big way. That there was a payoff there for someone that had, consumed all the Star Wars movies frequently. That being said, I despise the story arc of Finn. They wasted it and just kind of set it on fire and acted like he didn't exist by the end of that trilogy. So, yeah, there's my takes there. Let's see here. Rugby Fox. Now that we have meaningful football again, what was your favorite only newsworthy in the offseason story? I got one.
Okay, you go.
I think you might. It's probably the same. The whole Tyreek's podcast thing. I've enjoyed it all. It definitely made the separation easier. But it's just all just ridiculous. And I enjoyed it. I did kind of enjoy it. And I think it helps. Honestly, I think it helps Mahomes' case for winning an MVP because Tyreek Hill is making everybody know how he feels about everything right now.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and kind of to go in tandem with that, like blowing up the spot, and it didn't just happen with Mahomes. I know that we're very hyper focused on what Tyreek Hill has said and what Sammy Watkins said in Green Bay as well. it's happening with everybody. Devontae Adams said stuff. Everybody's saying they're just sticking up for their guys, and so it just seemed like at every term, all these new wide receivers, all these wide receivers that made moves to other teams and everything like that, people put microphones in front of them and said, "Hey, how did you feel about the guy? How did you feel about your previous guy?" and everything like that. And they stuck up for their guys more often than not. I think the only guys that didn't just like stick up for the guys that they were playing with currently are the guys that were playing with the Chiefs. They tried to bait MVS into it, and he was just basically like, man, I ain't gotta choose. Like they're both awesome. Like he just I'm not doing that. But like it just seemed like at every term there was somebody else asking that question and somebody else that was trying to get an answer that was just going to drive a headline that, of course, is only noteworthy in the offseason.
No chicken tonight. What's the new wrinkle you want to see most in this offense?
Oh man, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, I know what it is, but I mean, they didn't do it last year, so
I know what you want to see.
I want one more gap. I want more power, but I feel like a broken drum there. I want to see. Maybe it's more new for this team versus new for the Andy Reid. Maybe more under center play action.
Ooh,
I think it would be interesting to see how teams defend the Chiefs if Patrick Mahomes goes more under center. He's typically, spread shotgun guy, rarely under center. If all of a sudden they start lining up under center, handing the ball off, running more play action, also mixed in with some of the shotgun and stuff like that, it puts more on the plate of the linebacker, puts more on the plate of these guys. And I understand why they haven't done it in the past. The offensive line hasn't necessarily been great. If you feel confident in your offensive line to be able to line up and pass block for as long as you need to in order to run some of these play action plays, yeah, get it in there. Do it and do a little more traditional play action passing. See if you can get those safeties to be a little too aggressive. And because we know Patrick is going to be able to hit whoever it is over the top. So I'd like to see maybe a little more of that.
I don't think this is a earth-shattering one, and it's more player specific. I want to see Juju on option routes. I think that's an area that he's really, 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 really successful in. And I mean, the guys outside of Travis Kelce that they've kind of had, and like, I mean, Kelce and Mahomes, everything's an option route. Like, it's like, sure, we're just gonna run this. We're gonna run this.
They're just on the same page. They read defenses the exact same. So
they do, and they just kind of they are on the same. But I want to see Juju on some option stuff, especially in the middle of the field. Like I think that's another guy that can alleviate. Like we talked about on the lab this week. I think he's a guy that can alleviate some of the third down, some third down woes that you might have seen at times last year with some inconsistencies with drops and in incorrect route running. I think he's a guy that can really fix a lot of those. Kay Gumminger asks what your target score at the KCSN golf tourney is. Craig, why don't you enlighten us on what your projected score is?
My target score is keeping everybody hydrated and filled up with beer. That's what my target score is on that. I will not be playing at the KCSN golf tourney. I have not played golf in probably 20 years. Like it's been damn close to that. As fun as it will be, I will be running the event. Kent, what are you going to shoot?
I don't know. I think I'm golfing. I'm pretty sure I'm golfing. We'll see. I mean, it's gonna be a scramble. I believe so. Like I hope our team breaks even. If I do play, I will just say this about you, Craig. There was this one moment about a year and a half ago where you asked me about 6 golf clubs.
And
I got so excited. I
entertained it. I am so glad that I didn't. Kent, how many times do you think I would have been able to golf over the last year and a half with you knowing what mine?
Yeah. Well, in the back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, man. Like
I don't know if I was supposed to say that, but like,
Nah.
It's like you're old.
I'm old. I'm old and busy.
Lee 87 asks, who is the best fantasy football player between the KCS and crew?
It's not me.
It's me. I'm sorry.
I was
me.
going to say it's you. If I had to guess, I think it's
You're
you.
right. You're right. It's me. I feel like Maddie.
We give you so few wins. We'll give you this one.
Thank you. I can shoot a basketball. Okay, Maddie asked a question. And I don't. Have you read this question yet?
I just did.
Is that why you're crying?
Yep.
Okay. I don't even know if I want to read it.
Yep. How many platypuses could you defeat in a King of the Hill style battle before being overrun? 14, Maddie. And I could go into detail, and I will in the DMs, buddy.
I I don't know how to answer that. I less than Craig, because Craig is great. Andy Nagel, what are 2 things about the Chiefs team, this Chiefs team, that will surprise the rest of the league and other fan bases? One, there's a clear gap between their quarterback and the other quarterbacks in the league. I think it's like Charles McDonald's been tweeting it out like the last 2 days. Like, Patrick Mahomes is somehow the most underrated player in the league, and I think he's right. And I think this year will just be like a steady reminder of, oh yeah, there's great quarterbacks out there, and then there's Patrick Mahomes. Like, I genuinely, like, he's Michael Jordan, man. Like, he is. And I know, like, he hasn't won a Super Bowl in a few years, God forbid. But I think the Chiefs have Michael Jordan at quarterback, and I think you're about to see something pretty special from him. Do you have another thing, Craig? I don't want to steal them all.
I mean, yeah, I think that this defense is going to be. I mean, I got ready to say better than people expect. I think they have already been better than people expect. I don't know if anybody really realizes that Steve Spagnuolo's defenses has been top 10 in points every single year that he's been in Kansas City. And I see a lot of comments, like when we're doing YouTube videos and, underneath stuff, like people are like, man, this defense sucks. They're terrible and all that. Top 10 defense in points. I think they're going to continue that. I think we're going to see that the talent level and the adjustments to everything won't really end up, really shifting too much one way or another. I think it's going to be roughly about the same. And I think because the Chiefs are going so young, it might grab people's attention a little bit more than saying, hey, having the most expensive defensive line in the league and Tyrann Mathieu in the secondary, resulted in positive things for this team. It's a lot easier to explain that away. Whereas also saying you have the most expensive defensive line in the league because it's basically still there, but saying that, but also you're playing so many rookies and the future is bright. So I think people will start to maybe look at it a little more favorably that way.
Corey Peter asks, who are you most excited to watch play football this year that's not the Chiefs?
That's not the Chiefs. Ooh, man, that's a really good question.
Why is it the Jaguars?
You go first. You go first.
Oh, I was just saying. I'm surprised you're not saying the Jaguars. I mean, you seem pretty high on that.
I am excited to watch the Jaguars, just to watch them get better. I don't know that they're going to be the most exciting team to watch football. I think they're just going to be fine. Dougie P offense, it's fine. It's going to be effective. It's not going to be anything special. It's just going to get the job done. I don't know that I'm excited to watch them by any means. I'm just more excited to see how they turn out, I guess.
You ready for a Maddie answer?
Yes.
Kansas football.
Oh, God.
Hey, booth review on the newly formed KCSNU channel. Go hit the subscribe button on KCSNU. That's where all of our college coverage will be. Maddie Lane's even going to have a college slanted show on there as well. So keep an eye out for that as well. Brennan McNichol, what do you think about Felix Anudike-Uzomah in next year's draft? Very draftable prospect. I think, I don't know if he's like a top 100. He's a top 100 guy, not a first round prospect, but there's definitely some juice, some length, a little bit of density to him. I think he's a capable prospect. Obviously it's a big year for him. Want to see a little bit more fluidity through his frame, but I think if that's the case, and if he, worked on his flexibility through the offseason, I didn't watch him against South Dakota. I will be watching him against Missouri this week. But I think he's an interesting edge prospect for sure. Jay the Fan asks, who's the worst team that has a shot at being in the Super Bowl this year? The worst team.
The worst team.
Ooh.
I like this question a lot. I think we're all pretty high on the Eagles. I mean, I know that everybody's kind of high on the Eagles. I'm gonna say, and I know this is a Chiefs podcast, I think the Raiders. I think they're going to come out of this division very battle tested. We just got done talking about Josh McDaniels. I mean, I can see him looking at how he's used some of these tight ends in the past. Darren Waller and Devontae Adams are going to have massive years. They're just going to have massive years, period. There's nothing a whole lot of defenses are going to be able to do to stop him. They are limited by Derek Carr, extremely limited by Derek Carr. And so that's where the worst team to do it comes into play. I have a lot of questions about that offense. I have a lot of questions about that defense, but I do think that they've got enough juice, enough ability to surprise teams and stay in games that maybe they don't have any business staying in. You get a couple bounces to go your way. I already projected them to make the playoffs. You get a couple bounces to go your way. All of a sudden, a team that might be in the Super Bowl and you might be looking at it going, oh, hell, how did this team get here? So I could see them maybe getting there.
Hey, the Bengals did it last year.
That's true.
Can't believe they had no business being there. Maybe it's the Bengals this year too. Maybe that's the answer. I think the NFC. I think the NFC is the conference that you see a surprise team potentially, because like the AFC is so stacked, man. There's just so many good teams, and like, I mean, I know they're all going to cannibalize themselves, but like someone's coming out of. I think there's just too many good teams for the Raiders to overcome. I don't even know if the Raiders make the playoffs. We'll see. They're gonna be salty though. I do agree with you. An NFC East team like Eagles, Cowboys, like one of those two. Like,
I like the Eagles, man.
But
Jalen
Hurts. Do we think Jalen Hurts is a top 10 quarterback? I don't.
No, I don't either. I think Derek Carr is a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts, but I love a lot of what they did this offseason. Like, I really do. Stuff. Howie killed it, man.
He really did. That is it for 21 questions. Thank you all so much for answering or asking all these questions. You can ask questions if you subscribe to the KCSN Substack. There's a link in the description of this show. $30 a year. You get all of our, exclusive content that Craig, Maddie, and I write. You will help Boys and Girls Club of Kansas City. It's all kinds of great stuff. $30 a year gets you access to content, the KCSN Discord channel, which is where all these questions come from. So yeah, make sure you hit that subscribe button, sign up. It's good stuff. We'll be back with 21 questions. Somebody will be next week, and we'll catch you later.